Welcome to Solutions Rising. I'm Rachel Branch, and I am delighted to welcome Hannah Poplawski to Solutions Rising. Hannah Poplawski is an employee at Berkshire Photovoltaic Services and working with Chris Derby-Kilfoyle. Chris is the founder and president of BPVS, which he began in 1985? 85, yeah. BPVS has spearheaded solar energy for years and years as a solution for saving our world from climate catastrophe. Hannah and I are going to continue the many conversations I have enjoyed with Chris over the years. Welcome, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm just delighted. Well, we always start off with saying, please tell our audience anything you would like to about your background, anything you'd like to share.
Sure, yeah, so I grew up in Western Mass, in Rowe, so it's just on the Vermont border. I spend a lot of time hiking and birding, canoeing, basically anything you can do outside. And I went to MCLA in North Adams. I graduated there with an environmental studies degree. So yeah, I went to school with Elena Traster and Dan Schustack. They were excellent professors. We've had a lot of interns over the years from MCLA. They've always been really wonderful. We've had summer employees that have attended MCLA, and again, they're just great.
So obviously your environmental studies program is excellent.
Yes, it's the best.
It prepared you.
Yeah. And funny enough, Chris graduated from North Adams State, which was MCLA prior. And
I graduated from Mark Hopkins, which was the training school for the teachers.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, there's some history there.
Yeah. And then our vice president also graduated from MCLA. So we have like a little community of MCLA graduates.
Those connections are important.
Yeah.
Really important. So let's talk about how you became part of Berkshire Photovoltaic Services. And I must tell you, when I first started programs with Chris, I had the hardest time saying photovoltaic, and I would trip over that word like I just did.
Yeah.
But how did you be part of this great company?
Yeah, so I started in 2020, which was when everything was first shutting down from COVID. BPVS had stayed open, because a lot of our work was just outside, and we didn't have to be in like close quarters with anyone. So my partner had actually started there before me, and he was working as the solar technician and installer under Chris, and they needed summer help. So I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to just work for the summer, because I was worried about not having a job because of COVID.
Sure.
And for my course requirements at MCLA, I had to do internship credits. So BPVS was offering a summer internship, so I could do that and work for the summer.
Oh, wow.
Which worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant because I didn't know anything about solar. I have worked, like kind of manual labor jobs through high school and college. I was working on like the summer road crew and just at a horse barn. So I was used to, long hours and being outside. So I wasn't too worried about like that kind of work, but I was worried just not having any like knowledge about solar. But Chris and Hunter were really patient with me and taught me so much during that time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What does your position now entail as you grew into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so when I started at BPVS, I was the summer intern, and then I stayed on part-time while I was at school and mostly just doing like office administrative stuff. And then now I'm the project manager. So when I graduated, I was hired full-time and then had that title change to project manager. So now I spend a lot of time seeing projects through from the beginning to the end. So I go on site assessments, and then I prepare contracts or proposals for people. And then as they decide to move forward, I do all of the interconnection paperwork with the utility and the permitting applications. And all of this is in consultation with Chris and Becca and Hunter. We make a good team there. And then a big part of my job is just customer service and being there for the customers if they have questions about the project, or even prior to signing, like just helping them work through everything solar related. There's so many advertisements out there now that can be deceiving, and so a lot of people just have questions that we should clarify for them. And then it's also really important to us that our customers trust us and know that we're there for them. So we're always communicating with them, even if there's issues on the projects, just to let them know that we're taking care of it and it's getting done in a timely manner. That's just really important to us.
Oh, it has to be important. So when you're starting a project day one, when you're doing permitting, you must go to the cities and towns and states. Do you have to go through?
Yeah,
how extensive is the permitting?
Yeah, so most towns now have it on an online portal. So there's just a few questions that you have to fill out. You have to describe the project that you're doing. And it is town to town. And then a lot of that information is collected during site assessments. So for like the building permit, we have to know what the structure looks like, and they have to confirm that it's safe to put solar on. And we also submit that information to engineers, and we just have them double check and make sure the structure is okay to put solar on. And then BPVS is a general contractor, so we hire electricians. We subcontract out to them to do the electrical work. So I just put together a little package for them that says what we're doing, how big the system is, anything like that, and just send that off to them, and they'll pull that permit for us.
Oh, so do you have to get separate permits for electric and?
Yep, yeah, they're separate.
Yeah. Oh, okay, which I guess, are you finding a lot of red tape?
Yes. There's been a lot of updates to codes, so that can put projects on hold just as people work through those new code requirements. Recently, there's been changes in setbacks on the roof, so how far or how much space the system can take up on the roof. So right now, the big one is it has to be 18 inches from the ridge, the top of the roof, which limits how much solar you can put on.
Are you talking about panels being 18 inches back or up?
Back from the top of the roof.
From the top of the roof.
Yeah.
Wow.
So working through stuff like that, it can just take a little bit longer on the projects. We try to be as efficient as we can so that we keep the projects moving, but we do have to kind of jump through those things with inspectors in the towns.
Do you think the legislators are understanding how important it is to make this an easier process? I mean, the need for solar is huge.
Yeah, I think.
Are you watching any changes in the regulations and the ripping apart the red tape?
Yeah, the regulations sometimes make it more difficult, which is frustrating for homeowners. So some of the things that we have to follow are there's a 10 kilowatt net metering cap for residential systems. That is really frustrating for a lot of our customers because sometimes they need more than the 10 kilowatts. So, and then the tariff just says that we can't install more than that for the full net metering credits, which just means when you export 1 kilowatt hour of electricity that your system generated, you get 1 kilowatt hour back as a credit on your electric bill.
So they're only allowing 10?
They're only allowing 10.
Which just seems counterproductive.
Yeah, so Governor Baker last year passed a bill that said they should be increasing those caps to 25 kilowatts, but it hasn't been done yet. And that's on the utilities to do. They're the ones updating the tariffs. We recently spoke with an engineer from National Grid, and he said there's been no updates on the tariff, which is really unfortunate. It's been more than a year now, I think, since the bill was passed.
It's unacceptable, more than unfortunate. Yeah. I can come out. Yes, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Especially with the dire state we're in.
Yeah.
Nationally and worldwide.
Exactly. And there's a lot of issues with updating the grid itself, so grid modernization. And a lot of that has to do with the transformer sizes. And right now, if a transformer has to be upgraded from like 10 kilowatts to 25 kilowatts, that cost falls on the customer who's installing the panels or the system, which is just, it's difficult for the customer. They're already paying so much for the solar array. And then now on top of that, they've got to upgrade the transformer, which helps everybody else in the community too. So that's just a frustrating aspect for homeowners.
Frustrating, and also kind of slamming the customer who's making a commitment to try to save our earth.
Exactly, yeah.
And all of you in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I have seen something that disturbs me is where whatever companies are putting solar panels in places, and I know places, where they've cut down trees, which is just unacceptable to be.
Yeah.
Facing the environment, but also the carbon collection that trees are capable of doing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a sad thing to see.
Yeah, we agree, and BPVS doesn't do those type of systems.
Oh, I know you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't be here if you were doing that. Well, one of the things we talked about was we explained how solar connections decrease the demand on the grid, and to help save Mother Earth. And how does the grid absorb solar?
Yeah.
These are kind of technical, even for someone like me, so that our audience understands what is actually happening.
Yeah, so I just want to point out something, that solar does help decrease the demand from the grid. But it's important to consider that when solar is at its highest production is when the demand from a consumer is lowest on the grid. So solar, if you have a system, it's really productive from like 9 to 3, which is when the demand for electricity is lowest.
Really?
Yeah, just because everybody's at work, or they're just not at home like using things, they're outside, they're out doing something. So in the evening when people are home, that's when demand is highest, but that's when solar isn't productive because the sun's probably gone down or just about to.
But isn't a part of solar energy the storage?
Yes, so battery storage is a solution to that issue.
It has to be battery storage, okay?
Yeah, so what the batteries do is when your system's producing during the day, so say it's 10 o'clock in the morning, sun's out, everything is producing to its max, it'll power everything in the house. So if you have lights on, or the fridge, or a well pump, anything like that, just your base loads, it'll power that first, and then excess electricity is stored in your batteries. So then in the evening, when you come home and want to run the dishwasher or do laundry, you can take from that storage instead of using from the grid, and then you're not forcing so much demand on the grid.
Can part of this be educating your customers to maybe change the patterns of how, like, do the laundry on a Saturday?
Yes.
So during the day when the sun's out, try to do the things that require a lot of energy to.
Yeah, so we do share a couple like energy conservation tips with the customer. The most typical one: turn your lights off. Do like a full load of dishes instead of like after every meal starting the dishwasher. Wait until it's completely filled, and then you'll save on electricity. Air drying clothes instead of using the dryer.
Clotheslines. I love clotheslines. In fact, I use racks. I can't use clotheslines. I use racks now. I don't use dryer. Dryers are huge energy users.
Yeah, so it does take responsibility from the customer. And like you mentioned, if you are home and it's sunny, do the laundry in the middle of the day, and then you're just consuming directly from what your system has generated instead of doing it later and using electricity from the grid.
Now, maybe some managers could change how they're treating employees and saying, all right, you're going to have a 2-hour lunch and go home and do your wash.
Go home and do that, yeah.
Well, a lot of our working situations have changed, and a lot of people are working at home, which can also be an advantage for solar.
Yeah. And it does, like even in the middle of the day, if you're not home, that the energy that your system has generated, it gets dispersed on the utility line. So it'll go to your neighbors or just the local neighborhood. So your neighbors can also use the electricity that you generated with the system.
Because this is a trade-off.
Yeah, so that's where the net metering comes in. So,
will you explain net metering?
Yes,
please.
Yes.
We didn't talk about that, but
so net metering, so if you have a system, it's producing in the middle of the day, it's a sunny day. Let me start actually with a bidirectional meter. So when we install solar, there's a net meter that we put in, and this is bidirectional. So when you're producing electricity and you're exporting to the grid, it's running forward. So, running backwards. And then when you're taking electricity from the grid, so in the evening or something, then you're taking that electricity back from the utility.
Oh, okay.
So during the day when your system is producing, you're going to be exporting a lot of that electricity. So for every kilowatt hour that you export, you get a credit for 1 kilowatt hour back on your electric bill. So this is a great incentive for homeowners, because then it's not wasted electricity for them. And our systems are typically sized so their systems are net zero through the entire year. So during the summer, you're going to be producing a lot of extra electricity, and you're going to be building that credit during the summer months. And then during the winter, when there's just less sun hours, you can pull from that credit, and then hopefully your bill is just net zero for the entire year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh, in the face of climate catastrophe, how do everyday people respond to the lack of legislative and corporate will to stop this man-made onslaught on our Earth and its atmosphere?
Yeah.
And this is coming right into the work that you're doing that is so important.
Yeah, so many people are frustrated. We typically guide people to write comments to the Attorney General's office and the Department of Public Utilities and the Department of Energy Resources, because they're the ones that are in charge of these regulations and the rules that we have to follow for solar. So going back to the Governor Baker's bill that he passed, that's going to help people install larger systems so then they can cover more of their electric uses. And that 25 kilowatt cap is really important as people start to get electric vehicles at their house, because charging is going to take a lot more consumption than they were using before. And it is nice, a lot of like local, Williams College has charging stations, a lot of grocery stores have charging stations, so you don't have to do it at your house. But people's electric usage is going to go up as they upgrade.
Do they charge you for charging stations when you go?
I think some do. I think it depends on where you go.
Okay.
I'm
But
not
here,
sure
right
the
there,
number.
is a little, what I look at as a log jam. 3 different departments. You want everyday people to have to contact 3 different departments. That
Yeah.
it needs to be combined, or one place that you can make a comment. And it's hard for everyday. I've done lots of comments, and
Yeah.
of course I know Chris has testified. Have you testified yet?
I have not, but Chris does. He
Yeah,
participates.
yes.
There's so many working groups.
Oh, yes.
So he always testifies for those and shares his comments. But again, not that much is being done
Yep.
about them. So it is hard to just kind of sit and wait and not be listened to, I think, as much as we want to be.
Oh, yes, yes. And it's egregious more than just, it's hard to sit and wait. It's really egregious with what is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to look around the world and see what is going on. And the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, the floods and the hurricanes and the fires. I mean, this is serious, serious time.
Yeah.
Okay, as a result of PVS's work and that of others promoting solar energy, years ago, $90,000 jobs were created. Do you know what that figure is today and the impact on our communities? I'm very interested to know if that number has gone up. The rapid expansion of alternative energy jobs is so important and such a source of hope, and we really need a source of hope right now.
I know, yeah. So it has increased significantly. I just double checked in from data taken in 2022. The number has risen to about 263,000 jobs in the United States that are related to solar in some way. So most of those are in installations and project development, but then others include manufacturing and wholesale trade, distribution, And then operations and maintenance is a big division that's starting to come out. And then I think in Massachusetts it's about 11,000 jobs, and 2/3 of those are in installation and project development. So it has a big impact on our communities. A lot more people are going to be installing solar in the upcoming years as electric bills or electric rates increase, and just as the climate catastrophe gets worse. They're going to want to install renewable energy on their home, and then, that makes them feel a little bit self-dependent, and they don't have to rely on the utilities. And then, because the amount of people installing or that want solar is going to increase, jobs are also going to increase, which is just going to help the local communities.
These are win-win situations, and the pushback is so hard to deal with. I am, and so many people are fossil fuel fighters.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for years. And Chris was part of it. Stopping Kinder Morgan from putting a pipeline across. We were communities joining, and it's just the price has to be available to everyday people too, so that they can make the changes. And those are government. Government need to be doing that. Yeah, there is a federal tax credit that's for 30% of the total system cost. So that is really helpful, but there's often customers who can't even take the tax credit because maybe they don't owe in taxes. So then that doesn't really help them that much. If you're low income, you don't even have to file taxes or just to have the piece of paper if you need it. But.
Yeah, so there has to be other incentives or maybe rebates that can help people pay for these systems so that it is affordable for most people, because right now it's not. It's really expensive to install a solar array.
One of the nice things that you said, though, was that if there's extra energy, solar credits, they could be used by your neighbor.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful community solution.
Yes, it is. And there's, we've had a few customers who maybe have like a rental house right next to their house, and you can allocate credits to another account. So you could install, so you could install a 10 kilowatt system, and then maybe you only need 5 kilowatts and your neighbor only needs 5 kilowatts. So you can allocate those credits to serve both houses. So that's a great solution too.
It is huge.
Yeah.
It is really huge.
Yeah, so that's a really good solution. And then just in terms of jobs and the increase in solar that's going to be coming, I think it's going to help a lot with education too, and increasing people who can get degrees in renewable energy and energy efficiency. I know there's already some community colleges that have certificate programs that you can go through. So it's going to be important to have those educational opportunities too.
Which also could impact technical schools. I'm
Yes.
sure the technical schools are also working on this.
Yeah.
This is just huge. Wow. Oh, we're getting to the time goes very, very quickly. Do you have any other comments that you'd really like to bring forward today in our discussion? Or any proposals or things that, we got about 4 minutes left, things that you would like the audience to know, our audience to know?
I think just for final thoughts, always do your research. There are a lot of predatory companies out there who they just put a lot of pressure on homeowners. If you really want solar, just make sure you read through all your contracts all the way through. Make sure you do your research before signing on to anything, and feel free to call other companies and get quotes from other companies. Contact neighbors who might have solar and they might have suggestions.
Or towns. There are some towns that have put in solar.
Yeah.
Can they also go to info@bpvs.com?
They can.
Your .com. Or,
.com, yeah.
Yes, and that should be on the screen. If it's not on the screen, it will come on at the end of our program, but that will be part of our program today.
Yeah, our website is a great resource.
Yep, and so if they after the website, if they still have questions, they could call you.
Of course.
And ask and be directed. Okay. Gosh, this is just, it's been wonderful. I really hope you will come back and do another program with me. We'll just continue this. We might just start a series here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So we've got just a couple more minutes. What else? Is there one more thing that you would want to say to community members or anything about PVS that on alternative forms? I know one thing that also goes right along with solar energy is energy efficiency.
Yes.
And so we should make one little couple of comments about energy efficiency in your home.
Sure. So Mass Save is a great resource. They provide free energy assessments. So you can contact them and they'll go through your house and see maybe where you're not super efficient and where maybe you're losing efficiency. So you're just paying extra for maybe your windows are just letting heat out, or there's like a phantom load where you're just being charged for something running constantly. So they'll check all those things for you.
They also check to make sure you're on the right residential rate. That's
Yes.
another thing. I helped a friend with that, and they had been on the wrong rate for years and paying way over. I
Wow.
actually did one of those energy,
Oh yeah?
what do they call it, audits?
Yeah.
And they went through the house, and then they, that was also a low-income program, and they put insulation throughout the house. Amazing.
great.
Amazing. So,
Yeah.
yes, you're Mass Save is the place to go for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been a real pleasure to welcome you, Hannah Poplawski of BPVS, Berkshire Photovoltaic Services. I said it without a problem, and learned so much about solar energy. And we are grateful for the pertinent and highly important information these days you've shared with us today. And very special thanks to David Fabiano, the Executive Director, Nicole Brown, the Director of Solutions Rising, and everybody at NBCTC that makes Solutions Rising possible. If each one of us picked up one problem and solved it, imagine the incredible view we would all have of Solutions Rising. I hope you've learned a lot from today's program and will be able to use it to make your life and the life of your neighbors better. Thank you so much. Please be part of the solution.